question is, how can we promote academic success? So the preview here is Chinese students may be viewed by some as a model minority. While some Chinese students do succeed academically, this simplistic concept masks the academic challenges facing Chinese students who might be struggling. It is critical to understand the instructional approaches that deliberately and intentionally connect and build upon student strengths, thus providing equitable access to rigorous learning. Panelists will discuss how they use a service learning model and a dual language program to facilitate learning for Chinese immigrant and Chinese American students. And so we welcome our panelists. The facilitator of this will be Dr. Lindsay Yu. She's an assistant professor in our teacher education program here at Metropolitan College. And I want to thank her also very much at this time for the tremendous help she's personally been involved with preparing for this overall conference. And she will introduce the panelists for this question: how can we promote academic success?
Knowing that all Chinese students, they certainly can meet very high academic expectations, what are the models that potentially can facilitate that academic success? What are the deliberate and intentional instructional strategies that, again, can facilitate that academic success? Well, service learning is certainly one of those, where students work on a real-world problem and simultaneously develop academic skills. Now, Peter, I know that you oversee the Youth Development and Education Department. Could you talk a little bit about the Green Initiative?
In a day and age, people are talking about waiting for Superman and all the education reform that's going on right now. A lot of the youth in our program are under so much pressure to perform, around standardized tests. And there's so little space within schools to provide an opportunity for students to understand why content knowledge is applicable in the real world. And we've seen that through our service learning projects, not only that students are doing better in some of the content language areas, but they're also able to exercise and build a lot of soft skills. We encourage our students to participate a lot in public speaking. And so, for instance, just a year ago, they were presenting to hundreds of youth at the United Nations Convention on Children's Rights, connecting environmental justice with children's rights. They threw their own and organized and led a youth-run Green Youth Conference that brought over 200 youth from other communities to talk about environmental activism in New York City and how youth can take positive actions. And so through this public speaking, we really have noticed that a lot of the soft skills is they've developed a lot of leadership skills. But more importantly, I think when we talk about resiliency and retention, not only in high school, but success in college, we've noticed that our youth develop not only a better sense of self, but an ability to advocate for themselves. And those are really key skills that are not only important in life, but also important in terms of success academically. And so those are just some of the soft and hard skills that we noticed through our service learning program.
Transition to dual language programs now, and I was wondering, Pat, if you wouldn't mind talking about exactly what is a dual language program, what's the objective of such a program, certainly what are some of the benefits and even some of the criticisms of such a program?
Let's talk about the dual language program. In the past, dual language is actually a bilingual kind of education, if we think broadly. But bilingual education in the past has some positive and negative feelings when people discuss about bilingual education. Most of the time, we offer bilingual education to those who cannot master the learning in English. So very often it comes with a very negative, these people don't speak English. And bilingual education has a very positive side. It's not only that we teach our immigrant children English, but we also want them to keep up with their content learning, whether it's in social studies, whether it's natural sciences. in the language, in both languages, so they can comprehend. Because we know how the brain operates. If things don't have any senses to me, don't make meanings for me, my brain just cannot process. If we speak gibberish, maybe I'm saying something very important to myself, but you will not be able to understand because the brain does not process that way. Now, these days, we are talking about the bilingual education not just for the children who come here and not speaking enough English, but we are also thinking the transition, we call it a maintenance kind of bilingual education, and that will morph into, alongside develop this immersion program and dual language. So thinking about that, it's not transitional that we just want to dump our past, our language that we learned in our native countries and acquire a new. But how do we keep these two languages together? How do we absorb the new culture, the new language together with the strengths that I bring along with me? Because both of them are part of me. So that's very important for self-identity in this learning process, as my colleagues will further explain on how their schools are actually doing that. Now, immersion program is also, this is not a new idea starting from 1960s, started from the Canadian side. The dual language, the immersion program started with French and English immersion program. And they found success in that. It's not because we learned another language, what we learned in another language, that we will lose our original language. So that's when people see, say, this is something that we can think about and we can do it. In the United States, starting from the 80s, we have started with the immersion programs, not very popular, but still people see the advantages. At that time, people would still see that learning a language is a privilege. Only the rich, only the high status people can have access, can afford to learn a foreign language or to learn in a language. But now we see that the research has shown that the dual language programs that we offer to the immigrant children, it's a win-win situation. For the immigrant children who are acquiring English as a second language, they learn English better, and also for the children who do not have, let's say, the Chinese English dual language program, there are some non-heritage language learners in the program. They are also acquiring Chinese while they are maintaining their own native language. In this case, is English. So we see that in New York City, this contest, the dual language program is being defined as that we have probably 50% from the heritage language background, from the native ESL background, Chinese language backgrounds, and the other half will be those children who do not have proficient Chinese language, but they're from the English-speaking background. When these two groups of children work together and teachers facilitate the teaching and learning, our purpose is for these children to acquire both languages, learning the content in both languages, and then also become biculturally proficient, knowing how to react or respond in certain cultural situations. So that's our goal. That means we're not giving up for these children who come in as a proficient Chinese speaker. We're not giving up Chinese just because you acquired English.